Today, Sigma is launching two wide-angle prime lenses for full-frame Sony mirrorless cameras. This is the all-new 20mm F1.4 DGDN. It comes in a massive box right here. I'm excited to review this thing on today's video, so let's see how this thing comes packaged. Now, there's also a 24mm f1.4 being released today, so check out that video. The box for this 20mm is significantly larger than the one for the 24. Inside, you get a folded manual and a white box with a strap for the case and a stencil for the rear filter cutout. This padded zippered case is included, which is a nice thing, and inside you get the lens. Plastic front and rear lens caps, nothing spectacular, and the giant lens hood, which is done very well. It's designed well, it feels premium, and it looks premium. These Sigma Art lens hoods aren't cheap. If you ever do lose one, you can expect to pay nearly $100 in many cases to get another. And now we get to the lens, which is a piece of work. I've always thought Sigma Art lenses were the creme de la creme of lenses for full-frame cameras, and this lens does not disappoint. It is among the best built, best feeling lenses I've ever felt. It exudes quality and refinement and craftsmanship. The finishes are all excellent, polished to a gloss at the mount end, matte in the middle with grippy ridges and razor tight tolerances all around. Starting at the rear, there is a metal mount with electronic connections for autofocus and aperture control. This lens features a rear filter holder, which is a nice touch. There is a rubber gasket here around the mount, as this lens is dust and splash resistant. 022 here indicates this is a 2022 release. Minimum focus is listed at 0.75 feet, and this lens is made in Japan. Moving up, there is a nice and clicky aperture ring that moves from f1.4 to f16 and then stops. If you'd like to move it into auto, there is a switch here that will allow you to do that. If you are shooting video and would prefer to not have clicks, don't worry, because there is a click on and off switch located here. The dedicated aperture control ring here is done exceptionally well. It feels solid, it has great feedback, and will appeal to those who like clicks and those who don't. At the top, there is a Sigma logo, lens specs, along with an 82mm filter thread, which is a plus if you use ND filters. A logo to designate this as part of the art line, and some switches. First is an autofocus or manual focus switch. The second is an AFL or autofocus lock button. Next is an MFL or manual focus lock switch, which is nice if you are doing some long exposure work and you don't want to accidentally touch the manual focus ring and mess up your focus. And last, here we have the click switch we already saw for the aperture ring. In total, that is 4 switches and 1 button on this lens, which rivals some telephotos. Up next is the focus ring, which is large, grippy, and smooth to rotate. It has the perfect level of resistance, although it is 100% electronic. Still, it is positioned well and feels about as solid as it can be. In front of this ring is a curved lip, which looks like just a design element, but I found out later that this is a lens heater retainer, which keeps a lens heater from slipping in front of the lens. So if you are shooting starry skies in the cold of night and using a lens heater to prevent condensation, this lens has you covered. Around the front, there is a nice large front lens element and nothing else. No writing here, just a clean front of the lens. Inside, there are 17 elements in 15 groups and an 11 rounded blade diaphragm. Sigma is marketing this lens for professionals and enthusiasts as a lens that is sharp corner to corner, ideal in low light environments, particularly in dark skies, aka this is an astrophotographer's dream lens. But that is not all this lens is capable of. In fact, I use my Sigma 20mm f2 contemporary I-series lens, which is right here, to record a lot of my talking head videos for YouTube. So if I'm using my A7C, I'll put this 20mm on, and because my camera is nice and close, it's a perfect wide shot for me. 20mm is nice and wide because it gives you just a little bit extra information on the sides compared to a 24, but you can use it for landscapes, a little bit of wide angle street photography, architecture, even dramatic portraits if you are going for that look. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of everything in these sample photos. All of these are taken straight out of my A7C. No editing, no corrections. Ready, set, go. So there you have it. I am not an astrophotographer, but in the dark, this lens is truly impressive. If you are looking for something to take with you on an adventure and shoot the stars, this lens is it. The great thing about it is that while it makes for a superb star lens, if you switch the autofocus on, you can use it for a ton of work during the day. This lens is sharp. Very, very sharp. Across the frame too. Optically, honestly, there isn't anything to complain about with this lens. It performs really well, among the best lenses that I've ever tested. Chromatic aberration is very well controlled. Vignetting and barrel distortion are also well controlled. Flare resistance is excellent even without the lens hood, although I kept my lens hood on for most of my samples. The colors are superb, nice and punchy out of the camera, plenty of detail, and I'll say it again, this lens is sharp, sharp, sharp. Here it is compared to my Sigma 20mm f2, and this art is just as sharp wide open at f1.4 as the contemporary lens is at f2. It's a really stellar performer optically. Now normally I would list a couple of flaws here, but I don't know if it is the Sigma fanboy inside of me or the fact that I share a partial first name with this lens. But there really aren't that many things that are negative that I have to say about this lens. I'd say that the weakest point of this lens is probably the autofocusing system, just because it's a stepper motor. Yes, it's silent, it's fast, it's accurate, but it's not as good as Sony's linear motors. I would say this is about 95% of the way towards a native Sony lens. But if you're using it on a newer body such as the A7C, you're really not going to notice much of a performance difference unless you're really pushing the lens to do some crazy things with autofocus, in which case the Sony's probably just going to be slightly faster. I guess I could complain about the focus breathing on this lens. It is slight, however, a minor negative in my opinion. But what a lens this is otherwise. Out of the two being released today, this 20mm is by far my favorite. The 24mm is great. It's the Sigma 16 designed for full frame, but this is like having a Sigma 13.5mm for APS-C on full frame. Pricing on this new Sigma 20mm f1.4 art is set to be $899 US, which is a lot of money, but it's not that much money in reality. It's $100 more than the 24mm if you guys are shopping between these two. It's only $200 more than the I series, which is a 20mm f2. It's also the exact same price as the Sony 20mm f1.8, which is a very good lens. However, I would argue that this one is more featured, more premium build, and you get f1.4 versus f1.8, so there's that. Undoubtedly, over the next couple of weeks on YouTube, you guys are going to see a bunch of comparisons between this 20mm and the Sony 20mm. I don't have one to compare, unfortunately, but I'll leave that to the other full-frame YouTubers out there to do. If I were picking between the two of them, it would be tough. The Sony's a little bit more compact, however, it has more focus breathing, and I just have like that heart pull towards Sigma. I just like Sigma lenses in general a little bit more. So my heart is with the Sigma. That's the one that I would pick if I were in the market. And in fact, I am considering replacing my 20mm contemporary with this art lens, but I'm worried about it because it's kind of a slippery slope. I feel like if I get this art, I'll add it to my 85mm art that I already have for full frame, and then I'll be tempted to buy a couple more art lenses, and then before you know it, I have a collection of art primes, and then I'll just make the switch to Sony full frame, which I cannot let happen. All jokes aside, this is a great lens. I would highly recommend that you guys check it out alongside with the 24mm, which I will have a video out today. Depending on which video you are watching first, you may have already seen that video. Special thank you goes out to Sigma for sending these lenses for review. Unfortunately, I have to send both of them back today, which is very sad. And on that bombshell, I am going to end this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more. Have a great day. Bye-bye.